So we are hoping to move to Dallas here at some point, and so I was doing some research on the impact to one's net worth based on whether, for instance, if we sell our home here in Cleburne, whether we simply put that money that we net from our sale into um, something like the stock market, some type of investment, and then just go ahead and rent in Dallas, or if we purchase a home in Dallas. And so I came across this calculator online that uses various factors such as home value appreciation and also, of course, stock market returns to try to estimate that difference. Now, of course, there are home ownership costs as well, but you also expect rents to go up as well, right? So there are a variety of factors there that determine which of those makes the most financial sense over the long term. Now, of course, there's other factors too besides financial. Like there's, if owning a home gives you flexibility to make updates on it that you want, if it gives you peace of mind, there's lots of other potential factors here besides purely the financial. But what I was interested in this exercise though was the financial, and so it turns out that, well, for starters, there's no one correct answer. And time periods make a big difference, I think, on how the calculator, how it, what the best way is to approach it. So, for instance, if it's like a really short time horizon, like maybe less than 2 years, well, then your costs with your closing costs, all that stuff can kind of bite you. So that's not a great thing necessarily. And then also, as they pointed out on a video that I listened to, if your seller costs when you go to selling your property can put a big dent into the theoretical returns that you got off your property, especially if it's a short time horizon, right? So, but over the long term, so let's say 20 years, 30 years, I was interested to see how that would compare between those two scenarios. And what I found was that it really all comes down to the rate of appreciation of the home. So while the stock market definitely does vary a lot as well, we have enough data on it that we can. It feels a little bit like you can make a moderately. There's no guarantees or anything like that, but there's so much history to the stock market that you kind of feel like, yeah, over 30 years, you're gonna get something like, 7% adjusted for inflation or something like that, right? 7 or 8% compounded annually or whatever. I guess however often you compound it, but well, okay. Sorry, I got myself stuck in a little mental hole here thinking about a little compounding thing. But scratch the compounding remarks, but just stay focused here on the interest and the return and so forth. Impact to net worth is what we're after here. So now with a home, see, what's interesting here is that if home values continue to increase in the DFW area like they have over the last 5 years or so, which I think they've basically doubled in the last 5 or so years, if they were to continue appreciating like that, and then buying a home, a real estate return, it's hands down like would knock it out of the park. There's no question there, I think. However, when there's, of course, there's the whole thing of adjusting for inflation and some factors like that I'm not sure if I've fully ironed out in my mind exactly how these impact everything. Obviously, inflation and affects both scenarios. But so yeah, I mean, if your home doubles in value every 5 years, that's a 20% return. Or, well, no, it's probably not that, right? It's a good return. It's a very good return. compared to the stock market. You don't expect to double your money every 5 years. But there's no guarantee that that will continue. So, for instance, this year, I think prices are up maybe roughly 1% over last year. And so it appears that, at least in the short term, that there's some stabilizing going on in the housing market. And, have we reached kind of our peak of aggressive growth here in this area? Like, who knows? There's talk of the stock market coming to Texas, or a stock market coming to Texas. And so, I don't know. It's an interesting place to be. I don't know that our pricing is quite as crazy here as it is like East and West Coast, but it's still high enough. But it is nice to see. Well, I say it's nice. I guess it's nice to see it plateauing a little bit on pricing as far as affordability goes. But then the other side of the course too is that, well, what if it just stays plateaued and returns really aren't that great, and would have been much better off putting our money in the stock market. So anyway, interesting to see that, and kind of to see how that plays out a little bit. And I do think that this is now my kind of gut feeling, analysis, whatever you want to call it. I do think that here in the DFW area, most likely, if you do a decent job on the buying side, in other words, you don't overpay dramatically for the property, but you still get a property that you can sell reasonably easily, or with some upgrades that you can sell fairly easily in the future, then I think probably home ownership still has a pretty strong case in terms of net worth. And values don't have to be, appreciation doesn't have to be crazy like it's been in the past in order for it to still be a solid option, and likely as good or better than investing in the stock market.